Hi everyone, welcome into another video. Been a couple of weeks, let's have a bit of an update on what's been going on. So at the end of the last video, I said that the next one wouldn't be in here. It's not quite ready yet, taking a little bit more time than I thought it was going to, and typically these things do. They never come together quite as easily or as fast as you expect, so taking a little bit longer, but it is coming and it's going to be a good one. So I suppose if you've seen anything really recently on social media about Ironman motorcycles, you'll know that Hickey was over this week for a bit of a meet with fans and TT people, and anybody could sign up and go to it. Tickets for it up at Ironman Motorcycles, who are like the local BMW and Honda dealer here on the island, and our bikes were up there too. So after Grand Prix finishes, within a few days or maybe a week, we get a shout that the bike's ready to be taken back, to have all the bits taken off them that were put on for us to do our job at TT and Grand Prix. And this year, the only thing really is a tracker. So there's a tracker that's fitted, it's wired in and under the seat, and so that all has to come off. And then the bikes are basically given technically a service to make sure that there's nothing that needs replacing. I'm talking things like brake pads, tyres if they need them, any consumables that might need replacing before they basically become a used bike ready for sale. And I spoke about this on another video, and this year's bikes are particularly low mileage ones, simply because of the weather that we had at TT. TT, we tend to do way more miles, and the reason being is that the sessions are longer because you get that little bit more light in the evening. Typically is more sessions because the weather's just better. And it goes, well, until this year, it obviously goes on longer, with the Grand Prix going back to almost its full 2-week time scale again. That'll even out a little bit. But yeah, with the TT weather being so bad this year, the miles are down. And I think I took my bike back with like 1,600 miles. I think I might have even said this before, I'm not too sure, but yeah, it didn't have many. I've had one before that's had close to 3,000. So, it's almost half. And that's just an indication of two things really. It was the bad weather at TT and the end of Grand Prix as well, to be fair, but also the low number of incidents that we attended this year. And obviously going to an incident doesn't increase your mileage per se, but moving around and having to reposition us to make up for somebody going to these incidents can add an extra half a lap or a lap per day, and it adds up. So yeah, anyway, the bike's up for sale. On the day job in the sim last week, we had a big endurance race, and Harry, who works up Ironman Honda, who does quite a few of our races, he came in and he goes, I've got some bad news for you. And I was like, why? What's going on? And he goes, your bike's sold. I was like, oh, right, that's good news really, that someone's taken it. I said, how many have gone? And he said, so this is over a week ago now, and they'd sold 3. So myself and Tony's, which you'll see in this picture with Hickey, number 1 and number 5. Another one, but he couldn't remember which one, that's gone. And there might be another one that's gone this week as well. So that'll be half of them gone. And it's great that they've sold nearly half of them already. A really good job if you think about it. The sports bike market isn't the biggest sector now off of bike sales, and we all know this. The demographic of people who are in this biking world, the young people aren't coming through as much, and so the average age is getting older. And the older riders want a bit more comfort, they want an adventure bike. And so sports bikes are never going to make up that huge amount of sales for any bike manufacturer. And so to have 8 of them up there on this small island, and they're getting bought up, it's a good sign. And yeah, they've done a good job there. So obviously there's half of them left. If you want one, you know where they are. They've been looked after. And yeah. And then this morning, waking up to the news that Marquez has won the Moto GP Championship, and he's absolutely dominated this year, hasn't he? And I don't know if like a lot of you are really into Moto GP. Most people I speak to follow pretty much all of bike racing anyway, so we all are. But I don't think I've ever had a season, personally, ever watched a season of Moto GP where I've been less interested in it. And for no other reason, like it's not that I don't like Marc Marquez. I think what he does on a motorbike is absolutely sensational. And when it was him against Rossi, obviously I was on Rossi's side, but Marc Marquez has been through a hell of a lot with that injury, and to come back and do what he's doing it just shows how good he is. And the problem for me with MotoGP, and we should probably maybe talk about this on a whole other video if people are interested in it, but the way it's gone with the aero, it's just become so dull to watch. Like Formula One is more exciting than MotoGP. I'd rather sit down now and watch a Formula One race than a MotoGP race. That's how bad it is. And I tell you how the perfect illustration of that is that if you go onto YouTube and watch the highlights of a MotoGP race, all that happens is you see the start, someone will either pass or crash into turn one because they're so desperate to make the move early because they have to. There might be a couple of passes for position in the first couple of laps. And you'll see in the top left, it'll say lap 1 of 25. Then somebody might fall off on lap 16. And in the next highlight is Marquez coming out the last corner and crossing the line and winning. Because there's nothing else to watch. Because what happens now with these bikes is that they have to make all their moves early, because once they settle in to a pattern of riding, you'll see these gaps, and they're never huge. They're like a couple of seconds between. Marquez often wins a race by just 2 or 3 seconds because the gap's just managed, but nobody can bridge the gap, because if you get too close to the bike in front, there's issues with the front tyre pressure, with the temperature, and like there's loads to talk about with the way MotoGP is, where it's gone wrong, the way the aero works straight up as opposed to on lean, and loads of things. We could make an entire video about this, and if you're interested, maybe we will. Let me know if you'd like to talk more about MotoGP, where it's gone wrong and where it can go right, because something needs to happen with it. Because ultimately, if people aren't entertained watching those races, and let's be honest, they're not entertaining to watch, like what the guys do on the bikes individually, and again, if you watch qualifying and things like that, is incredible what they're doing to extract lap times. But racing is about challenging people for position and making moves and if it becomes dull to watch, people won't watch it, and if people don't turn up, the thing will die. Obviously, they'll never allow it to get to that point, but there has to be a point where something's done to improve it, because it's dull as dishwater. And yeah, anyway, if you want to talk more about that, let me know, and we'll make one just about the MotoGP. On the flip side, I haven't even seen today's action yet because it's still the morning and it hasn't happened. But World Superbikes has been good this year. Top Rack on that Beamer, like outriding the bike, fighting against the Ducatis, like he did on the Yamaha. And it goes to show, doesn't it, when you look at the Yamahas now, okay, they get the odd podium here and there, but for Top Rack to be constantly challenging the Ducatis at every race on the Yamaha was because he made the difference. He is the difference. And I think we're all very excited to see Top Rack in MotoGP and see what he can actually do. It's happened before where you've had World Superbike riders like Ben Spies is an obvious example, but he only had 1 year there, had a great year, went to MotoGP and did well, but obviously probably not as well as he or many people expected. So yeah, it's great. But obviously we all know the best short circuit race in the world is BSB. Always has been, always will be. And it's been a great season. I was a little bit concerned after the first few rounds that Brad Ray was just going to disappear with the whole thing. But we've seen enough bike racing over the last 30 years to realise that that often isn't the way it goes. I'll tell you one example that springs to mind straight away was Leon Camier's year. Do you remember on that Airwaves Yamaha? And he just absolutely cleaned up everywhere all season. I don't know what the numbers are on that, but like he won so many races and it never ever let up. It just continually went on and on and on. But yeah, Brad Ray's been reeled in by Kyle. When Kyle has a bad race, he doesn't tend to be out the top 4. Whereas Brad, when he has a bad race, he can sometimes be 10th or worse. So that's been the difference. And yeah, we've got a few rounds left and it's all to play for and really exciting. And the other classes, obviously, we can sit here and talk all day about everything that goes on at BSB. But I just wanted to have a shout for Nathan, like friend of mine. Like I grew up racing with him in a way. Obviously, I'm a lot older than Nathan, but when I was racing, he was just starting, and I was racing with his brother Glenn, and we were newcomers together at the Grand Prix in 2011. And Nathan was always there, and he was on a 125. And I remember going to Cadwell with him, and his mum and his dad and Glenn and then me and my friend Rob. We all went to Cadwell for a meeting there. And Nathan's running around on his little 125. He's getting lapped. He doesn't care. He's just absolutely loving it. He's absolutely loving riding his bike around Cadwell, over the mountain, zipping through all, and he just running around the paddock, being a nuisance, jumping in the vans and asking what you're just following you around. Yeah. And then I was in that race when Nathan had his big crash at Derby and got those really bad injuries. I was in that race with him. 2015. He was ahead of me. He was actually, him and Glenn that year were battling like really hard for race wins up at Andreas. And it was either the first or second lap, and I remember coming round and just seeing this bike, like, you know, my peripheral just cartwheeling up in the air, thinking, well, that's a big one. Red flag. Obviously happens all the time, and Nathan's injuries were really, really bad from that. And but he obviously got over them, and what he's gone on to do surpasses like way more than I ever expected. For no other reason that that's just a very rare thing to be that good, and such a bright future for him. Been through so much at such a young age, but I absolutely love that kid. He is, yeah, he's like a little brother. Like I don't even know Nathan particularly well because I only see him a handful of times a year. But I was just drawn to him so much as a person. I just love him. He's great. He's such a good lad. And obviously the news from his crash at Donington a few weeks ago. As soon as you read the statement, you know, when MSVR make a statement, you're like, oh, this won't be good. And his name came up, and it's a split second, but your mind races thinking, oh, no. And obviously he wasn't the worst one out of the two. But, you know, these things happen. You go racing, it's dangerous, but yeah, Nathan he's had his fair share of bad luck, and he must have used it up by now. He's got to be due some good luck. And then I'm thinking back to the Manx, and he was absolutely flying on that Kawasaki. Probably him and Rob Hodgson and Mike Brown, if those bikes kept going, favourites to win that race. And they didn't even get to do it. It's just like, yeah. Anyway, yeah, get well soon, Nathan. Hopefully, you know, I say you've timed it right. You've had a great season. You've managed to get all the main things done that you wanted to do. And I know it's a pain in the ass right now, but you know better than me or anybody else that you'll get over these injuries. Be a bit of a pain in the ass this winter, but you'll be back fighting strong next year, and I can't wait to see what you do. But yeah, it was just a quick video. I just wanted to give you a quick update because I promised I would. The other video's coming. It's definitely coming, and I really hope and think you're going to enjoy it. Again, it won't be in here. It's just taking a little bit longer than I thought. It's just not as easy as it sounds doing it all. But yeah, quick update on that. Things that have been going on. Bikes are for sale. Moto GP is boring to watch. BSB is amazing. Nathan, get better soon. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.